Hi everyone. Thank you so much for the comments on my previous video. Um, Welcome if you're a returning subby, and welcome back if you're a returning subby, and welcome if you're new to the channel. I'm going to be talking through my first property. I've spent about an hour looking through my external hard drive for a photo and then this for money. So apologies for that. Then for my photo specifically that are linked to the renovations that I did, which I'm also going to chat about. I'm going to try and keep this video quite quick. Yeah, right. So I'm talking about the mistakes I made and the lessons that I learned. My first ever property. I tried to make notes, so I'm going to stick to those. So the property is in Ottery, Cape Town. I viewed in the evening, and that's Bona Squatter Camp opposite the complex. So that was a mistake that I had made. I did come again after a meeting with the lawyers where I signed to do a drive around, but I'd forgotten where the property was, so I couldn't see it again now during the day. So the thing that I do differently now, I mean, this was 6 years ago. The thing that I do differently now is that when I'm interested in a certain complex, I will view, and then well before I put in an offer, I will go and I'll do like maybe my Saturday or Sunday shopping in the area. I've got Virgin Active National, so I'll go and I'll gym in the area as well, just to see how I feel about the area, what it looks like. I don't really go out. Um, uh, so I like a quiet area. I like a quiet complex. So when I'm out for dinner during the week, I will go and I'll have dinner maybe in that area if I want to see what Friday, Saturday, and Sundays are. And I mean I don't go out at let me not say I don't go out at night. I don't go out like partying, so I really like quiet places. But I go out like for food, and I go out like for activities and stuff like that. So I genuinely like quiet places. I like people who go out and not matter the place is the party. So that's also something I'm mindful of. So that's something that I do differently now that I've been, through this experience, the viewing multiple times, and the just familiarizing myself with the area well before, I get to the signing and offer stage. Okay, the other thing was that Nedbank gave me a 30-year home loan. You have to understand at the time I had very little credit. I was advised to take out credit when I started. I actually wanted to take out to MTN when I initially started, but I got rejected. And I was told to go get a retail account. Then Truworths ndamvala because bengingamunderstand bakwenzeka ntoni, like statement sakhe bengasivisisi ncam. And Truworths used to send you a letter, and I was renting and moving around at the time. It just didn't work out for me. Then I went and I opened TFG so I could build my credit record, which means my credit record wasn't good, but also I think affordability wise, sharp, not bad, but I think Nedbank was a bit hesitant about me, but I told them I didn't want the 30-year home loan, and they made it a 25-year home loan. But what ended up happening is that I then had a high interest rate off of that, because I was a high risk essentially, because I didn't have a lot of credit. Salary wise, I think I had bought a 580,000 rand apartment. I think the installment was about 6.5 at the time. So salary wise, I was sharp, but because it was my first installment and my first big installment outside of Truworths and TFG, I think these guys just priced me for risk. So between the 30-year home loan and the bad interest rate, financially this decision wasn't my best, but it was my first, and I learned from it so that you guys don't have to, right? I'm not a practical learner. If someone does something or they tell me they went through something, I don't have to go through that same thing for them to know. Which takes me to the budgeting for transfer and bond registration costs. I didn't really know about those. I think I budgeted about 20k, and then when the second set of letters came, I was like, yeah, because there's bond costs and registration costs. So those are from the bank lawyers, and then there's the transfer cost. So I only knew about the first set of costs. So now I was like, yeah, man, we must get another 20 something thousand. Luckily, I'd had some money that was invested in my tax-free savings account. So I reached, I tapped into that, and that's what I used to pay for these fees. I also borrowed money from my mom, and then I paid her back the following month end. So I was fortunate that she was liquid and she was able to assist me with that. So just something to be mindful of. Again, I talk a lot about bond and transfer fee costs when we're looking at the investment properties. So it's something that you guys always have to be mindful of. It's something that is very important, and it's something that you need to budget for ahead of the time. Okay, the other thing is that I felt pressured by the agent. The agent was calling me while I'm at work, trying to figure out, am I taking the house or not? And I caved under the pressure before I was able to do more research, before I was able to ask around. So don't do that. Like, the agent works for the owner or the seller, not for you. So that's just something to be mindful of. Again, don't make the same mistakes I made. Like, if I'm saying this is what I did and this is how I do it differently, then do the same thing. So in terms of the 30-year home loan and the bad interest rate, now I compare interest rates. I made another video where I was talking about my fourth property, Tanganani, and how I played the banks against each other, and I wasn't desperate for the home loan. I gave them time to sort of come back to me with like reasonable home loans. So that's what I do differently now. And then in terms of budgeting for transfer, bond, registration costs, one of the reasons why I'm renting now is because I don't have enough money for those upfront costs for the property that I want. And that's simply because I've invested my money and it's locked in. So I don't want to liquidate to go and buy a property at the time, but ideally you would budget ahead of time for transfer and bond registration costs, especially if you want to buy a property that is existing. So you definitely know that you're going to need those fees. And because I'm likely going to buy in the 1.5 to 2 million range for my personal property, then I definitely have to, it's going to be significant. It's going to be about 140 to 180,000 that I need to budget for those transfer and bond registration costs. That's money that I need to have. And then in terms of pressure by the agent, I no longer feel that. I think I've got more confidence now that I've bought and sold property. So I no longer feel pressured by the agent. That's just something that came with building confidence and with understanding the sector, with understanding investments a bit better. If an agent tells me I can't give you the rates and taxes or the levy statement until you sign, I'm just like, oh, okay, thanks. And then I drop the call, and then I don't speak to them anymore, because that is not true. If an agent tells me they can't give me rates and taxes and levy statements because of papaya, I tell them, okay, you can redact the personal information and still send me the latest statement. If they don't want to do that, then it's not the property for me, and I'm not the buyer for them. It's as simple as that. So I've dealt with pressure by agent by just moving along and leaving the investment, not getting attached, and knowing that if it's not for me, it's not for me, and that's that. Don't beg and don't bend. There's so many properties, there's so many opportunities. Like, don't beg, don't bend. It's not for you. And then the other thing is, I didn't reach out to friends and family for advice. So my mom owns property. I think I told her by the time I was looking, and then I told her when I needed money for the registration costs. In between, I didn't really tell her, but they did come and view the property. But they viewed the property because they're not in Cape Town. They viewed the property after I had already made the offer, so it was a bit after the fact. And then another mistake I made, at the time, none of my friends owned property, so I couldn't really reach out to friends. But a few of my colleagues told me after the fact, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that. So I wish I had spoken to them before, but I think I didn't know them as well at the time. And then renting it out, this was a big one. So at the time, I was renting in Muizenberg, and I didn't want to leave my apartment until the term ends. So these guys it was a guy who owned the property, and his daughter was living there with like her kids. So he asked because it took transfer, I think, mid-year, he asked if they could rent it out for the next 6 months so that the kids could finish school. And I was like, that's perfect. Then I could move in January 2020. Everything worked out. The problem is that I didn't get an opportunity to do the handover and to do an inspection. When I went for the viewing, I was just like, oh, this is nice, this is nice, this is nice. So I didn't notice that moving in inspection, I didn't notice that there weren't any built-in cupboards. All the cupboards they had, they left with them. I didn't notice that the stove wasn't working in the kitchen, the oven. The stove was working, but not the oven. I didn't notice that one of the bedrooms didn't have a door, so I had to put that in. And like I said, the built-in cupboards. So, and there was a tile that was broken in the kitchen. So I had to put a built-in cupboard. I had a friend of mine has an uncle Lesotho, so he came over. They came over by bus and they stayed in the apartment while I stayed in Musenberg, while these guys had moved out. So I had about 15 days crossover between the two leases, or the lease and the ownership. They came, they built in the built-in cupboards, and they did all of that, because I couldn't really live without built-in cupboards. Luckily, I had cash. I was liquid at the time. The other big problem is, I didn't note it here, but the big problem was that I was sold potential. This was a sectional scheme. I was sold a lot of potential. I was told that the pool was going to get fixed, the gate was going to do this, the complex was going to get repainted on the outside, because there was going to be new management. I had a lot of trouble there. I had a lot of issues. There were a lot of funny things happening. So that's another thing. Don't buy into a complex for potential. Actually, don't buy into anything for potential. I think, especially at this age, like at the big age of 30, I'm not gullible enough to look at something and say, oh, this has potential. It must come already done. It must come already fixed. Otherwise, it's not for me. So that's something that's very important. Sitting with the financials of the complex, reading through them, understanding what's happening here, and not being made promises when this and this is going to change. No, let it change, and then let you come back 6 months time once everything has changed, and then buy into the scheme. Because buying into a complex is buying into a business. Like, you could work, yeah, well, and you don't get to choose your members, but at least you can have a look at, where are they in the project? Should I enter now, or should I wait, or should I just leave them be? All right, I said I would keep this video short. Apologies for the fact that I don't have any pictures or anything. I think for the other properties I'm going to be speaking to, because they're investment properties, I'm going to be sharing numbers. So I'm going to be sharing like how much I bought it for, how much it's renting for, how much are the levies, how much are the rates, how much am I making, or how much how much is my shortfall monthly. So at least I'll have that. And then maybe for new model, I'll have pictures of renovations, because those are pretty recent. So I should still have those on my iCloud. Yeah. But yeah, thank you so much for listening, and thank you so much for reaching out. Like, I really appreciate all of the comments on the previous property videos. Like I said, I'm gonna try and keep this an every Friday thing, just a proper chat coming to you guys. And yeah, the more you guys engage, the better it can be. Next week I'm out of the country, so I won't do this on a Friday. Yeah, you'll see me, I think, the week after, if I can't do midweek next week. Thanks again for watching. Share, like, comment, and subscribe. Good night.